guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. This from a guy, sounds like he's in his late 40s, he's over in the UK, and he shares his story how he is now having the last laugh by enjoying a great life, great relationship with his son, after his marriage imploded, after his wife repeatedly would not only cheat on him, but also show disrespect and all that. And how, like I said, he's doing great and her not so well. Let me really go over here, guys, to show you that even though you're in a bad relationship or bad marriage, you can have a great life afterward. You can learn from your mistakes, start over, and have a darn good life if you're willing to make the effort and have the right attitude. And of course, guys, you're going to see in this story where he goes wrong, makes mistakes and all that. And I'm going to point that out, of course, not to be a jerk, but just as a learning a teaching tool to help guys not make the same mistakes. And there's one element to this story that definitely he has made a mistake and he's still making a mistake, in my opinion. I'll point that out and you'll see what I'm talking about here. And hopefully he will recognize that and handle it accordingly, because believe me, it needs to be done. So he says, "Dear SSM, I thought I would tell you a story of my ex-wife's adultery, the divorce and the aftermath, to show there is a happy ending for men who are betrayed like this. I met the woman, who I will call Farah, not her real name, at the end of 1994. She was from a Muslim background, but her family was not particularly religious, and they were happy enough for her to date me, even though I'm a Westerner. She was 22 at the time and a virgin when I met her. We dated for a few years and married towards the end of 1998. I had no intention of marrying a gal with a high body count, and even though by the time we were married, Farah and I had been intimate, I was the only one up until that point." Okay. Well, so, well, maybe one part of her was a virgin, but it's possible other parts of her weren't so pure. You gotta be honest here. But anyhow, I felt great at my wedding day. I was marrying a woman who hadn't been with anybody else. She was from a small C conservative family, and I was sure that she'd never cheat on me. How wrong I was. Do you know how many guys were laughing when he just said that? I'm sure she'd never cheat on me. Man, what it's like to be young and that hopeful and wide-eyed and naive. But, hey, we've all been there. Like a lot of women from the Middle East, she was attractive, but rather hot-tempered, and there would be the occasional blow-up. But that wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah, it wasn't a big deal at the moment, but as time went on, that got to be a big deal. That's why you have to check them, or you spend years with them getting to know them, and so things like their blow-ups and stuff like that, and attitude, if you realize it's a reoccurring thing, then you're like, you know what? Nope, this isn't for me, because it's only going to get worse, guys, particularly if you don't check them. We had a comfortable marriage with no financial pressures, enough to have multiple holidays a year, and I had her driving a pretty nice sports car. I am not that materially motivated, but she was. Shocker. And whilst you can always find someone richer than you, life was very easy. Yeah, because you made it easy. Let's be honest here, and I know this guy, you're going to find out in the story, did way better financially than her. Yeah, he scaled back on the spending because she sure as hell was not. 8 years into the marriage, we started trying for kids, but that was not easy. Nothing happened initially, so we both got tested. My swimmers were fine, but she had issues. We tried a couple of cycles of IVF and various drugs, but nothing had worked. I had all but given up, and then one day, after 4 years, she announced that she was pregnant. 9 months later, my son came along. Congratulations, Dad. And I gotta say it, because everybody else is thinking it. I truly hope and trust that he's yours, but I'm sure at this point you know. It's impossible to describe the joy and happiness a son can bring into a man's life. I didn't think it would be possible to be happier at that point, and nothing else compares to being a father. I thought this would be the final piece of the jigsaw that would make her happy, but she found things to complain about. Yeah, most of them do. There are exceptions. Well, no, let me backtrack now. I've never met a gal that didn't, like a little drama. I told you before, if any guy thinks they're going to get a drama-free girl out there, they're out of their fucking minds. All women like drama, but there's the ones that like to get it from, like, I don't know, like listening to my show, or watching shows on TV, or hearing the gossip from their friends, or the ones that got to create the drama. Okay? And two, I never known any woman that didn't like complain a little bit. And other ones take it to a whole new level, to like a freaking art form, complaining. Complain about every fucking thing. Then when my son was 5 years old, there was a disaster. We were arguing about something, and when in an unguarded moment of anger, she blurted out that she was seeing someone. Excuse me? You're cheating on me? Get the F out. Unfortunately, that's not how it goes. I couldn't believe it. For all her unreasonableness, one thing I thought is that she would never cheat. Unreasonableness? For all her unreasonableness? She sounds like a fucking asshole, dude. Why were you still with her? Clearly she was no fun person to be around before your son was born. I think you really, really went a long time without checking her, laying down the law, and she knew that, look guys, women need to know that no matter, if they push you too far, you're gone. Even if you get crushed in the divorce, you're gone. Because otherwise, bullshit will happen. Unreasonableness, being demanding, controlling, complaining, losing their temper, all the shit described. She was reluctant to give me the details, but I found this was a guy in his second marriage who had an adult daughter. Farrah told me that his daughter from the first marriage refused to see him. This was a red flag, and you could see from the moon. How could I possibly let my son get in that environment like this? The guy could have been an abuser for all I know, and I knew at the moment he would never see my son. I won't go into some of the more extreme scenarios I planned out, but there's nothing I wouldn't do to protect my own son. I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. I do know where you're going with this, and ultimately I know how the story ends. And so where you should have been going with this is down to the solicitor's office. I think that's what they call lawyers in the UK, but we'll just call it lawyers. The lawyer's office, finding out your options. Because, well, we know how this is all going to end anyway. I wasn't too keen to spend 20 years in jail afterwards, so we tried marriage counseling. Yeah, and how did marriage counseling work out? By this time, I think the affair had phased out, but it didn't matter. I couldn't look at her in the same way, but I couldn't leave her either. Yes, you could. Yes, you could, bro, because it's inevitable anyway. You stay with her after her cheating on you amongst all her other wonderful qualities, and I'm being sarcastic here, that's only going to make her treat you worse. Because she's like, I'm cheating on him, I'm effing this other guy, I spend all his money, I'm unreasonable, all these things, and he still stays with me? Man, I have no respect for this guy. I'm just going to treat him even worse. I got to lay it out, guys. Otherwise, you're all going to make these same mistakes. In England, as in America, the woman gets child custody by default, and British law doesn't punish anyone for adultery. It's sick. It's the only contract you break and can be rewarded for. And yet so many guys every day around the world think their girl's different or their situation's different and go get married. I like to think that I'm opening a lot of guys' eyes about this issue through these stories, and at least they'll be more careful with the girl they get involved with. But yeah, and yet guys keep doing this. So until guys pretty much really, really stop doing this, laws are going to stay the same. Anyway, we did the marriage counseling, which was pointless. Oh, shocker. She never apologized. Shocker. And of course, it was all my fault for taking her for granted. Working too much, but I knew I had to eat this crap to make sure my son was safe. No, you didn't, dude. You did not need to deal with this shit to make sure he was safe. I'm sure other things could have been done here. See? Never apologized. It was all his fault. And by the way, she made it out to be his fault. Shocker. If he had scaled back work and wasn't working as much to be there for her as she claimed that was the reason for her cheating, guess what? Then she'd be bitching because he wasn't bringing enough money in and she couldn't enjoy the lifestyle that she was accustomed to living. There's no winning here. After a few years, I started getting the "you need to trust me again" narrative, but that is not easy. Once a cheater, always a cheater, as a wise man once said. She worked in the medical sector, shocker, as a radiographer, but in 2018, she started talking about a change in career and went to some of these business shows where they sell you various franchises. I thought the whole thing was a bit pointless, but it seemed to keep her busy, so I didn't really care. In other words, it kept her far away from you and your boy. You were in this miserable marriage. Anyway, she fell under the spell of one of these cheesy, motivational speaker type a-holes and started having an affair with him. So remember that part when I said that when a woman knows that you're not going anywhere and you repeatedly put up with her crap like cheating and disrespect and all these other things, guess what? It's only going to continue. I have to point it out. She didn't admit it at first, but I had a sixth sense. At that time, in 2019, she announced she wanted a divorce. Well, quite frankly, she's doing cartwheels. See? This is going to end exactly where it could have ended years earlier. By then, my son was 10 years old, and I thought he could at least tell me if anything was going on, so I agreed. Trust me, 21 years with that woman is enough for anyone. Yeah, it was a fucking prison sentence. I was very calm and said, so how long you been seeing Warren? Which shocked her, but after some initial pointless denials, she confessed that she had. I didn't care. I was in the home for my son at that point. She could have been turning tricks on a street corner for all I care. Anyway, motivational speaker Warren had internet presence, so it was fairly easy to find out stuff about him, and it turned out that he was married. Of course he's married. We were done at that point, but I did take some satisfaction in saying, he'll never leave his wife, they never do. And people behave in patterns. You aren't the first mistress, and you won't be the last. She, of course, denied this and insisted the divorce proceed because he was going to leave his wife as soon as we were divorced. Yeah, let's see how that works out. Of course he's not. Why would this guy go through a big nasty divorce where he's going to get hit financially to get with a chick who's no doubt in her 40s, had a kid and all that? I mean, really? You won't be surprised he did not leave his wife. I thought this was pathetic. How can you blow up a stable family home for your own son, chasing a pointless pipe dream, which was obviously never going to happen? Well, I've done thousands of videos between all three channels of women and wives and girlfriends destroying their marriages and relationships because of, wait for it, attention and validation. A guy that can give them the butterflies, the excitement, the thrills, blah, 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 how they feel, that type of thing. This is why I never feel bad for women. I don't. I've had my experiences. I've heard experiences of people I know and all these things. Don't feel bad for them. Because there's always some white knight sucker that's going to. We've done pretty well financially in the previous 2 decades. Correction, you did well financially, not her. I work in a house building and usually earn about 3 times what she did in healthcare. So as well as a family home and savings, we had a couple of rental properties. We were only a couple of years away from complete financial security. We've done so well, in fact, that I was able to send my son to a private school, which in England is not cheap. You're looking at $30,000 a year in US dollars, but I want the best for my boy, so I paid it. Wow. That's a lot of dough. I hope your son appreciates it, and I know he does from what you'll tell me. During our divorce, my number one priority was my son's well-being. I knew she couldn't afford to live in the family home on her own and give me equal equity share, but I also knew that as well as a divorce, my son would have to move into a much smaller home. So I took a very hard decision and decided to leave her the house. Ouch, that had to hurt. That's a sacrifice I'm okay with you doing for your boy, not staying in that miserable marriage with her treating you like shit and disrespecting you all the fucking time. Don't misunderstand me. She means nothing to me now, but my son is everything, and I thought if he lived in the same house, the divorce would be easier on him. Well, I'm sure that made things better for him, and that was very big of you, Dad. We had one of the rental properties each, and I now live in one. It's an apartment, but I honestly couldn't care less. Yeah. A lot of guys don't need a whole lot to be happy. It's generally the women that want the ridiculously sized house and new car every couple of years and clothes and vacations and all this expensive shit that is completely unnecessary. I'm not saying all women are like that, but a lot are. And I also know guys are stupid as shit with money too. During the divorce process, she announced that she expected me to keep paying for my son's school fees. I suggested that since we were splitting up, we should pay 50-50, but she refused. Of course, she doesn't give a shit. Of course, I was never going to take my son out of school, so the financial burden remained on me completely. She knew this. But because of this and the fact that I gave her the family home, there was no alimony at least. Well, that's wonderful. Long term, that's the best deal. That's great, man. About a year later, she started bitching for money. But I said no, and anyway, I was paying our son's school fees, so I wasn't financially viable. After all she'd done, she said that I should take our son out of school and give her the money instead. What a freaking asshole. Well, guess what? Unless I'm mistaken, you're divorced now. The terms are done. There's no change in, the agreement, the terms and all that. And so, tough shit. See, she can't live in that lifestyle. Remember when I said that she was bitching because he wasn't spending enough time with her to justify her cheating? And I said, well, if he scaled back at work and spent more time with her, she'd be bitching because she didn't have the money for that lifestyle. Well, here you go. She's willing to take your kid out of the private school. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure your son's a smart boy and he would have been just fine not in a private school. But regardless, that's what you did for him and is opening up some doors for him. But she was willing to get rid of that so she can have more money to spend on bullshit. Yeah, great mom. And I might add, when she was cheating on you, she wasn't just cheating on you twice for what you know. She's also cheating on your boy. Betraying me is one thing, but betraying our own child is another level of self-centered degeneracy. Of course, I refuse. Well, good for you. I never told her parents about her repeated adultery because they're very traditional people and they are always very kind to me. I didn't want them to know their daughter was a 304. Smack! I probably should have smacked you earlier. No. Control the narrative. You got to control the narrative, guys. And by the way, she deserves to have her parents know the truth why your relationship failed, your marriage ended and failed. Because I guarantee you, she blamed it all on you. They should know. And I might add, given what her culture is, I don't think they're going to go biblical on her, but believe me, she'd be getting something well-deserved from her family and probably her community. You have to tell them. Well, I'm out of her orbit now completely. We used to communicate about logistical matters regarding our son, but it was only ever a pipeline of bile and bullshit. So I recently blocked her on phone and email, and life is now calm. Yeah, peace at last. My son is 15 now, and he's becoming a fine young man, so we don't need to speak. You mean you don't need to speak to your ex? Wonderful. You've done a great job with your boy. I did suggest during the divorce we do not introduce our son to romantic partners, as she agreed. I stuck strictly to this commitment. She did not. But after all the lies, was I really surprised? No. So what's the happy ending here, SSM? You have to carve yourself into a new life after divorce, and that's exactly what I did. Rather than pour myself into a bottle, I quit drinking completely. I always went to the gym, but I've redoubled my efforts. I'm hitting some poundages I'd never done before, all this in my 50s. That's great, bro. The booze ain't going to do anything for you. You can have an occasional beer for your English. Of course, you want to have a pint. You can have the occasional beer, but, really alcohol doesn't do anything for you. And that's great you're hitting the gym. And I'm not surprised you're hitting poundages you never did before. Good. Just be careful. Don't do these ridiculous lifts and stuff like that. The last thing you need is to tear something, to make yourself feel better about yourself, Just work out, be careful, and all that. But that's awesome. Good for you. I also started coaching my son's sports team because it gets you out of the house, gives you a new social circle, and gives you something to do on weekends. Wonderful. I've dated a number of women, but frankly, it's nothing more than short term. Once they go past a certain age, the juice just isn't worth the squeeze. Well, it seems like the juice isn't worth the squeeze anywhere nowadays, whether it be in merry old England or over in the USA. My son, however, is thriving. When we separated, he was my absolute priority in life. I'd spend weekends taking him to various sports, and he became a very good cricket player in particular. It's like baseball, only good. For a couple of years, he was in the country youth squad and could have tried for a career as that professional sportsman, but he told me he didn't want that, and that was fine by me. I was in the Bahamas for 5 days in early to mid-June, and every day I'd have my breakfast at the buffet, and they had cricket on, and I'd watch that, and the crowds around to watch cricket, and it's like, how the fuck can they see what they're doing down there? And just, hey, if it's your thing, it's your thing. I just don't get it. My son is also doing really well academically. Saturday and Sunday morning were sports. In the afternoons, we'd sit down and study math and science, and maybe watch a movie Saturday evening. Also, he has a good circle of friends. Of course, he still goes to the same school, as well as a great education. They get some fantastic opportunities. Next summer, for example, the school has been invited to go on a 10-day cricket tour in Barbados. I don't remember any school trips like that when I was his age, do you? No. I never told him why we divorced because he was too young to fully understand at the time, but after his exams next year, roughly the equivalent of high school graduation, I'm going to give him the full details. Good. Frankly, you should have told him. He's 15, for heaven's sake. or he was 15 before you wrote this, he should know. He should absolutely know the truth about his mother, why you divorced. Because I don't want your son to end up with some girl just like her. Think about it. He may, I came from a broken home. I love my dad, I love my mom, but it was a broken home, so I'm going to make sure I don't have that. And he rushes into a marriage. He needs to know specifically what his mom did and how you put up with a lot of bullshit, although I disagree with the bullshit, to help him. I mean, it's admirable what you did for your boy, not divorcing when you first found out. I get that, but still, you still divorced anyway and took the hit. So now I live a life where it's easy enough to get Cinderellas if you work out. Most guys my age don't, and it shows. But they're not that interesting. I see the boy 4 times a week, twice in the week, and both days on weekends. He's even starting to coming to the gym with me, and he really likes it. Good. Get him lifting. That's great, man. He's 15. He's old enough to do it now. Just make sure he learns proper form and all the exercise before he starts piling on the weight. So many young guys, they just want to heave heavy objects to look cool for their buddies, and they use atrocious form, and they're going to fucking injure themselves. Make sure he learns to do it properly, and he understands that, and then you can move forward. But that's awesome. And what's this about the Cinderellas? Don't tell me you're dipping into that cesspool. Tinder is a fucking sewer, and Cinderellas are sewer rats. Be very careful. I mean, I wouldn't even go there, man, but it's your life. He's growing up to be a great young man, and as a father, I think this is my first and most important role in life. He's also fully aware of the R pill and female nature. Well, he's not going to be fully aware of female nature until he truly understands what happened and caused the divorce between you and his mother. You got to tell him. Above all, I don't have a toxic drama queen, lying woman in my life, and I honestly can say I'm happy and my son is going to be okay. Yes. Notice, guys, he's on his own. He's happy. Drama-free. Peace. Living comfortably. All that. He's happy. Yes, obviously he wouldn't have his son if he wasn't married in the first place, and I get that. But the point is, look where he is now. So any of the men in this situation, when you face a divorce, you have a plan. You won't find the answer at the bottom of a whiskey bottle. Go to the gym, get strong, prioritize your kids, and try not to obsess too much about the past. Whatever it takes, have a plan. There's a bright future for you out there if you go and find it. Thank you for all your work. Amen. You got to have a plan, guys, always. And there is a bright future, but you have to make it happen. You can't just sit on your ass and just expect amazing things to happen to you. You have to get off your ass, have a plan, and work towards it. So that's great. I'm sorry what happened in your marriage, and I think there were definitely a lot of things I could see there that, I mean, I wasn't there, so I don't know everything, but for what you're telling me in my own life experience, what I can read between the lines, it seems like she was a giant asshole before you got married. She just was pretty good at hiding it, and you probably, she's a young, beautiful woman, so you were, you had the rose-tinted glasses on, right? As a lot of guys do. We've all been there. And then I think you let a lot of shit slide that you shouldn't have, and it just got worse and worse with time. And frankly, when you found she's cheating on you, aside from all the other disrespect and crap she was putting you through, should have been over with. Because, look, it ended anyway, right? And look how happy. You would have been much more happier early on. But what happened, and you are where you are now, and you're happy, and I think that's great. So good for you, sir. I'm glad you're doing great, and your son's doing great, and I wish you guys all the best. So, guys, you can turn shit around. There is life after the divorce. You're going to take a hit, and everybody's different in what they go through, but you can do it. And here's another guy from across the pond, same situation, and he's doing good. Awesome. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.